soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am glad you are all here tonight. We have a lot to talk about, a lot going on in the city, a lot going on in the state, and obviously a lot going on in the country as a whole. But let's get to formalities first. Of course, for all those of you who have been here, you know who I am. I am Joe Vollano. I'm your host, your guiding light through the chaos going on in the world today and in the city of Meriden, unfortunately, which we're really going to dive into. And of course, this show always works best when you are involved in it. So if you'd like to call in, 203-679-9610, or you can email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. Or, of course, if you're on any of the social media platforms, you could always chime in on the message board, which seems to be a little quiet today. I think half of you guys are still sleeping. I know it's so nice and warm out there. Maybe you guys are still outside. But just enjoy that nice weather because it was super hot the last couple days. A little too hot for my liking, but for most of you out there, I'm taking it you're enjoying it. Are we going to talk about Hampton George? We'll get into that if we have time. We have a lot to talk about. First and foremost, a lot of information has started coming out to me about the tax assessor's office. So if you notice, I put that first on the list for things to talk about today. So I've been having conversations with not only people within the city, but those that were part of the reval company. So I had some conversations with some of those people also. And a couple of disturbing things have come to light that I will be investigating a little bit more as the week goes ahead. For the first and most part, one, I believe there were strong ethical violations by some members of the BAA and the assessor's office, i.e. Melinda. So that we're taking care of now. But speaking with some members of the reval company themselves, apparently they were instructed allegedly instructed. We'll see what the assessor's office in the city has to say about it. But they were instructed to take anything that was considered old style. So if your home was considered an old style as a type, it was changed to colonial. And if you were a bungalow, you were changed to a cape. Now, most people sit and go, well, that's just semantics. No, what it does is a colonial and a cape are have a higher assessment value than a bungalow or an old style. So some people were just switched over because she didn't want either of those two types put on the assessor. So they moved it you either from old style to colonial or bungalow to cape. And therefore that artificially jumped your assessment up some. So we're just finding that out over the last couple of days. So that's something we're going to investigate and find out if that really did happen. If that really did happen, well, then we have a bigger issue on our hands. I keep seeing these messages about two counselors having their assessments go down or not go. I don't think they went down. They just didn't climb at the rate that everybody else's did. Is it a legitimate question to ask? Yes. Yes, it's definitely something that we should look at. And it's something that we are looking at, or at least that I'm looking at. And what I'm looking for and what I'm waiting an answer on is if there was an override. Was there an override on their card? So their property card. That's where we're waiting to find out. If there was an override, that means somebody manually went in there and changed it. Now, to my belief, because I am on the Board of Assessment Appeal, which, just starts to remind me how the hell I even got on the Board of Assessment Appeal, because I never asked to be on the Board of Assessment Appeal. So how they put someone like myself on the Board of Assessment Appeal, knowing that there's someone like Melinda on the board on as an assessor, just blows my mind. It's like, what, did you want like a guy scaife on there? That's just someone who's just going to go after them? I don't know what the intentional plan was, but from what I'm finding out and from the experiences I've had over the last 2 years of doing it, there's some crazy stuff going on that definitely needs to be investigated. And these are 2 points where I am going to be looking into, because people do deserve answers. Like Sue, you just mentioned 2 counselors had their assessments go down. I don't believe they went down. They just didn't go out at the same rate. But it's a legitimate question for those of us who saw increases of 40, 50, 60, 70, even over 100% increases. It's a legitimate concern of some that some are getting favoritism. Now, I will be the first to say that being on the Board of Assessment Appeals, if you came and sat before me, you got a fair deal. If you came down and sat before me and you made your case, I would stand by any of my assessments that I did. And I usually put pretty good notes on mine. But again, coming down to some of these things that, like the bungalow and the old style being jacked up, or if your building grade, if you haven't had a chance to go back and look, go onto your property card. You can get all this information on the city's website. Go look at your building grade, because some of them changed. So some went from C's to B's, some went from C to C plus. And what that does, it says that your house was built with a higher quality. Now, I don't know how that changes throughout the years. It shouldn't. If your house was built at a C grade, then it's a C grade. If your house was built with a B grade, then it's a B grade. It really shouldn't change. And I'm finding out that some of these were changed, and some of them may not have had assessment appeals. So there's a lot of questions on what the hell happened this assessment time, this reeval time. And I think that the assessor, I think Tim Coons has a lot of answering to do. A lot of people have a lot of things to answer for. And if these kind of changes were being done, why the Board of Assessment Appeal wasn't made aware of it? So those are questions that need to be answered, and that are going to be answered. Because if things were indeed changed, and then be told that, well, the people have to answer for it or have to sit there and appeal it. No, that's not the way the system works. It's not the way the system works. If the city decides they want to change something, they have to give justification for doing so. If they don't give justification for doing so, then it should be reversed. Oh, we definitely know we're not going to hear from Coons. But this is not going to go away. So there's a lot going on with the assessor. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to be following up more on this week. Because again, having these conversations with the reval company, some of the employees from the reval company that actually were doing some of these revals, and they were specifically told by the tax assessor to actually go ahead and change them, that is an issue. And if that indeed did occur, the tax assessor should be gone immediately. Immediately. Along with anyone else who had a hand in it or had knowledge of it. So we'll keep you up to date on that. We have a story coming up next week. I promised I would give a couple weeks to the Board of Ed. There's some real shady stuff that went down at the Board of Ed that has come to light, involving a couple of their employees and a couple of expense accounts. Let me put it that way. So we'll talk about that next week, because I promised that I would give them 2 weeks to sort this out. 2 weeks to hold people accountable. And if they don't, we're going to talk about it on here next week. Well, we're going to talk about it either way next week. But we're going to name names, and we're going to sit there and bring this whole thing to light, and we're going to knock it out. Because again, there's one thing that's missing in this city, and we talk about it all the time: accountability. Accountability. There's no accountability around here. And the fact that these type of things keep happening, whether they're the Board of Ed, whether anywhere in city government, they just try to sweep them under the rug. No, this never happened. This never happened. It is absolute craziness. Absolute craziness. I'll give you a hint. It was with the maintenance department. And I'll leave it at that for now. But people will be held accountable for what they do. You know, that's why our next story here. Listen, me and this woman, she's my new hero here. She's my new hero. Colleen Sear. Now, listen, she's called into the show. We've had discussions on here before. And me and her probably don't see the same eye to eye on politics. But some things are bigger than politics. When it comes to, because I think there's one thing that me and Colleen really do see eye to eye on. That's protecting the taxpayer and protecting the citizens of the city of Meriden. That's something that I take very seriously, being behind this microphone, making sure that we're giving you accurate information and making sure we're holding people accountable. And she is definitely holding people accountable. And I've been saying this for years. There is no way. I said this with LaRue Graham years ago. There is no way at all that he should be overseeing any committee that has to do with distributing money that goes to any of their organizations. And I just don't get it how this stuff is allowed to happen. Because to me, it just blows my mind. So for those of you who don't know, is that Colleen Sear had made a inquiry to the HUD department, so the Housing and Urban Development. It's a federal agency that gives it's a federal agency that gives money to the city to distribute for local grants. And the Boys and Girls Club was putting in an application to get some of this CDBG money. Now, the problem is Councilwoman Blake, who is the chairwoman of the Human Services Committee, is assistant executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. And LaRue Graham, who is, I believe, also on the group, is the executive director, or he was on it, is the executive director. So if anyone doesn't believe there was a conflict of interest there, it's crazy. I've said it for years that they shouldn't be on it. But yet, she goes and chairs a committee and has a meeting where the Boys and Girls Club is presenting their request for $23,000. When the Board of Ethics themselves of the City of Meriden said she should not do such a thing. She should not be chairing any meeting that has to do with funding, especially for the Boys and Girls Club. And she went ahead and did it anyways. And Colleen Sear, on top of it, filed a complaint with HUD. And HUD did an investigation, and they determined that indeed there was a conflict of interest and that it should have never happened. Now, they're still going to get their money. They're still going to get money. And I got to say, it's really sad that this kind of stuff comes up. Now, again, do I not want to see them get their money? Sure, because they do good things with the kids. But I'm hoping that they are taken off of the Human Services Committee. There's no reason for them to be on it, knowing that there are several conflicts of interest. Why they would even be allowed to be on it? I mean, that's one of their main functions as a committee, is to give out CDBG money. So why the city council would put themselves in that kind of position to begin with is mind-boggling to me. But again, that is the mentality of City Hall. That is the mentality of liberal government. They do what they want. They do what they want. And then when they get caught, they sit there and go, well, we didn't know. We're innocent here. We just didn't know. I didn't think we were doing anything wrong. It's absolutely crazy. And they get away with it. Because again, there is no accountability. Nothing will ever change as long as these same people are in office. And let me go a step further. Things will never change if City Hall is kept in the same way as operating the same way it's been running. Why would anyone do their job? There's no accountability. People could do whatever they want. People could not work. Go work side jobs while they're working. It's craziness. The type of crap that's going on in this city that nobody knows about. But we are going to shed that light. We are going to shed that light on everything. And next week, we'll shine that light on the Board of Ed. This week, it's the tax assessor. This week, it's the city council. I said there were ethical violations made during the appeals process, and there was. Come to find out, and again, you guys deserve to know. Come to find out that one board member was meeting with the tax assessor, one-on-one. Now, is it illegal? Maybe not. Should it have happened? No. No. It's highly unethical. The BAA is supposed to be a separate independent board from the city. Now, there's a difference between asking a question to the tax assessor when there is a quorum, and then there's a huge difference between going down during a workday to work on BAA stuff. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And people need to be held accountable for the actions they do. And that board member should be immediately removed from the board. I will be filing my own ethics complaint against the two of them because it's wrong. And it takes away the trust of what the BAA does. And now to find out that possible changes in property cards were done without anybody knowing, without giving anybody a heads up, that will indeed increase your assessment, increase your taxes. If that is found to be accurate, which I'm taking it is, I don't think these reval companies are going to lie about it. If that is indeed happening, heads need to roll. Immediately. Immediately. Because that could only lead to legal action against the city if it's found to have happened widespread. And we should need to know how many people that happened to. These things will not go unchecked. The taxpayers deserve to know, especially if they were screwed. So talking about getting screwed, if you take all of that crazy assessments that we've been dealing with over the last couple months, and then you look at inflation, you look at fuel costs, you look at everything that's going up. Then you look at the city council's budget, and you see it going up. They couldn't help themselves to keep spending. Just because they realize, hey, we might as well spend because we're lowering the mill rate. So therefore, people will think we're doing a good job. And if you look at how it's being presented, and if you look at how the newspaper is presenting it, it's like, hey, listen, you still got your mill rate decreased for the last 3 years, it stayed the same for 3 years, and now it's going down. Not once did they talk about the budget itself rising every single year. So only a simple person with common sense would think, wait a minute, if the mill rate's not going down and the budget's still going up, spending's still going up, where's that extra money coming from? And of course, we all know where it's coming from, between federal money, between the energy, Eversource money that came back, $3.5 million. That's where it came from. And now they figure since we're lowering the mill rate because crazy evaluations, we could get away with spending some extra money. Because who's going to know? Who's going to figure? Who's going to decide? Who's going to sit there and look? Listen, only 6-7 people come to council meetings. So it was 6 or 7 people. Many of you that are here right now know what's going on. Knowing what's going on. Do the rest of the people know what's going on? No. They don't. That's just a fact. There are many uninformed people in this city. And with this budget is coming a new referendum. And Sean McDonald has been heading this referendum up. And listen, they've already tried, and if this isn't bad enough, they're already trying to screw us with the referendum. We finished the referendum last year, or 4 years ago. The referendum got pushed And this year, they're saying now it's due by June 1st at 4 o'clock. That means Sean and everybody that's helping him need to get 3,200 signatures by June 1st, 4 o'clock. That gives 9 days. 9 days. Now, they've already started, and I think they got somewhere around maybe 700 or so. They need 5 times that. They need 5 times that. No, and we'll get into the whole thing behind that. The referendum is so needed right now. Now, will anything happen because of it? Maybe. Or will what happened to us 4 years ago happen all over again today? To me, it doesn't matter either way. It sends a message. It sends a message that we're not going to take this shit no more. That's what it means. And we've had enough. We've had enough. So everybody here, everyone around you needs to know about the referendum and get to someone who has a petition a page to get it signed. That's what they need to do. 9 days. 9 days. Now, if you look at your sheet, I believe it says it's due on the 13th. But legal has decided that, no, since the mayor didn't do anything and didn't veto anything, that now it takes effect. It starts on the second. It starts from the 2nd when the budget was actually passed by the council. Now, to me, that doesn't make any sense. Because if the mayor turned around and changed things, then why would we start a referendum back on June 2nd or May 2nd? Doesn't make any sense. It should start with the day that the mill rate is set, because the mill rate is set by the budget. You need to make sure everybody works together to grab sheets and get this done. And get it done. This has nothing to do with politics. Has everything to do with helping your fellow citizens out. Your fellow taxpayers. Your fellow senior citizen who's on a fixed income. Your fellow renter who may live next to you. Who's not going to be able to afford their rent next year. All of this comes into play right now. So if you have not signed it yet, please, please, please do so. And someone please put up a link, an email who they could contact to get it done. Sean, I don't know if Sean's on here or not today, but we need to know where to go to sign these. So it's so extremely important. Now again, will it do anything in the end? Remember, if anyone remembers 4 years ago, yeah, they went back and looked at it. They made some cuts. They turned around and said, here you go. We gave you this. And then what? And within 2 months, not only did they take back everything they cut, but they added. You were paying more by the time we got done. Because if one thing is for sure that politicians know and your council people know is that everybody has short-term memories. Everybody has short-term memories. Because you had, 4 years ago, you had what? You had Democrats, Independents, Republicans, everybody you could possibly think of signing these referendums. And then once November came around, they all went back to their political corners and they voted the same damn people in. And then we wonder why we're back in the same place all over again. Here we are. Because we still hired the same people. We had one casualty on the last one. That was bringing. We had Mike Carabetta take out Batista. They do have to be registered voters. Yes. So they need 3,200 registered voters in the city of Meriden. But please, 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 let's get this done. Because it is important. And then we need to make sure that people remember this come November. And we do that by doing the most American thing we do, and that's vote. You got to vote these people out. Which leads into our next story. Obviously, all conventions are finally done. All conventions are finally done, and now we know exactly who is going to be running in every district. Well, for the most part. Obviously, we have some primaries. So, Hilda Santiago, which I already knew she wasn't going to run for Secretary of State. That would have been crazy for her to do so. One, I think she doesn't want to get out of the game yet. And then, in fact, I'm going to throw my little disclosure here because we're going to start talking about election stuff. Got to put my disclaimer down here in the bottom because the SEC tells me to. So there it is. They can't cry now. So Hilda Santiago is not going to run is not going to primary in the Secretary of State. Instead, she's going to come back home to Meriden and she's going to run for her House seat again. And again, I think she does that for two reasons. One, I think she likes the game. She likes being part of the Hartford clique. And so I don't think she's willing to take a chance of giving that away. So I think she's going to do it. And two, listen, she's a very nice woman. I can't sit there and say anything bad about her other than her politics and what she votes for. Other than that, she's a darling of a woman. And she's very nice, very approachable, very loving, I guess. Is the only way I could put it. She's always been nice. So she's going to come back and she's going to run for the 84th again. There was no Republican that is running against her. So that's going to be a walk in the park for her unless someone else jumps in last minute with a petition. The 84th will go uncontested. Then you have the 83rd, and you have the gentleman from Berlin versus Lou Arata here in Meriden, and that is the 83rd. That covers part of Meriden, part of Berlin, part of Cheshire. So that Cheshire is new to that district with the redistricting that was done. The 82nd is all Meriden now, and that's the seat held by Mike Quinn. And that one right now is going unopposed also. There was no Republican that joined that fight. So for now, unless, again, someone petitions to jump on the ballot, that will be an uncontested seat. And, of course, then you have the big one, which is the 13th. That's the Senate district. And that's where you have a three-way primary going on the Democratic side. And then yours truly is running on the Republican side. Again, we did our nomination last week, and I was very happy and humbled to be put into that spot. And I thank everyone for coming out. I thank Len Suzio, our former great senator, for his vote of confidence in having me handing off the torch, I guess, and having me run. So I take it very seriously, and of course, we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're in a good position to win, which I think we are. For those of you who have not been to the website yet, Vollano2022.com, and I should have made a graphic for it, but I didn't. I just thought of it just now. Vollano2022.com, and you could, again, one thing about campaigns, and since heck, I'm putting my SEC thing down there. Guys, it takes donations and signatures. So we need to get 300 signatures, $17,800 in donations. So Vollano2022.com. You could donate or online, or you could print out the form to mail one in, to mail a donation in and a signature page in. So please go ahead and do that, because we have an opportunity here to take back the 13th. It's been back and forth for almost a decade now. With, you had Dante, and then you had Len Suzio, and then you had Dante again, then you had Len Suzio again, and then you had Mary Abrams. So hopefully we're bringing it back to Republican side this year. And like I said, it's a unique opportunity. It's an open seat this year, and you have 3 people sitting there battling out on the other side. So we're going to let them battle it out, and we're going to go after our independence that we need to get us over the hump. But first things first, we need to fundraise and get signatures. So 300 signatures, 17,000. So if you have not signed a form yet, please do so on Vollano2022.com. And, or like I said, you could print out a page also and send it in. So look at that. I'm getting my money out of this little thing I'm putting here in the bottom. So I'm sure Democrats over there are going nuts, saying, look at him, he's getting free advertising. Good. Yes, we are, because you're making me do that. So please go ahead and do that. So speaking of politicking and the nonsense that's going on. So in case anyone did not know, come August, the governor is going to be issuing $170 million in one-time tax relief this August. Now, if anyone's wondering where that sounds familiar from, it has happened before. It's political grandstanding, as always. This time it's done by the Democrats, which, again, I always love when Republicans and Democrats do this, because they sit there and go back and forth. They complain about it one year and then they do it the next. If no one remembers, back in 1996 or 98, John Rowland did this. John Rowland did a tax rebate in August, just before a re-election year. And most people, and of course Democrats, were all against it, because they found it as a political tool and as a election time pandering, which of course it is. It was back then. It is still now today. But now we're talking about not only, Rowland gave $50 back. Now you're getting $750. And listen to these. This is the criteria. Now it's for the working poor, is how they're putting this out there. So they're saying it's for the working poor with kids to get rebates. And it simply says the administration hopes to send out 300,000 child tax credits this summer to single parents who earn less than $100,000. Are you serious? Is that the working poor? The working poor is not anywhere close to $100,000. And if you're making $100,000 as a single parent, and of course for two-parent families, it's $200,000. But $100,000 for a single parent is not poor. I'm sorry. That is not the working poor. And they'll get $250 per child up to 3 children. So a maximum of $750. So we wonder where all of our money goes to. We wonder why our taxes are so damn high. This is exactly the reason why. But that's not it. That's not it at all. Because there's going to be another $40 to $45 million going out to 180 working poor households who claim the state's earned income tax credit. You're getting an extra $300. So you could get an extra $1,000 this August. Craziness. And we wonder why the state's in the position it's in. And they'll brag, oh, look at the rainy day fund. We got $3.1 billion. We're going to have $4.7 billion in there by the end of this fiscal year. Yeah, that's because you're getting all this money from the federal government. It's not going to be there. It's not always going to be there. So playing these election year games is not helping anybody. Again, you want to help somebody? You want to help what's going on? Again, eliminate the diesel tax. That helps everybody. That helps everybody. There are some other benefits that, again, that the Republicans wanted to do. Repeal, and this is my favorite, because if you're not in business with trucking, this is a big one. Republicans want to repeal the highway use tax on large commercial vehicles. Now, most people would think of that as like, oh, well, they're big giant trucks. They should pay more in taxes. No, those are the ones that are carrying your groceries, your clothing, everything that's being trucked on the highway is using large commercial trucks. And for people like myself, not all my trucks. Now, a highway use tax on large commercial vehicles, these are your 18-wheelers and your large straight trucks, like one of mine, like the filler-up truck that you see, the big giant filler-up truck, the triaxle. That could be considered anything over 54,000 pounds. We pay an extra fee every single year just to put the truck on the road. It's a fee that is passed off to you, the consumer. Because we're not going to take the hit on it. And I don't know how many times I had to say it. Companies and corporations do not pay taxes. They do not pay taxes. We may pay it in theory, as in we give the government the money, but we pass that off to you guys. We have to. Every business does. Any business who gets taxed passes that off in their cost of goods. That's just the way it is. But it's so much easier for governments to turn around and say, no, they're the bad guys over there. They're not paying enough in taxes. And most people will be like, yeah, we need these corporations should pay more in taxes. No, because it's just a hidden tax on you. That's all it is. Just like the gross receipts tax on gas. The gross receipts tax on gas, that's a hidden tax that you don't know about. That you never even see. Everyone talks about the 25-cent tax. That's only half of the equation. If you want to make real change and make effects right now, eliminate the diesel tax. And give companies a break. That's where I would go. So, again, there you go. Hartford giving away free money. Giving away free money, hoping to buy your vote this year. Now, if they would just simply say, we're going to give tax cuts to everybody, I'd be all for it. Be all for it. But that's not their intention. Just like their holiday on the gas tax now. It ends December 1st. How convenient. After the election. Right after the election, it ends. So it's very, very concerning. And then, of course, like I said, everything's going up. And with natural gas going up, guess what else is going up? Your electric bills are going up. Starting in July. Eversource and UI are going to charge their customers more for electricity. But we keep, again, electing these people. Why? It just makes no sense to me. No sense to me whatsoever. It is getting way too expensive to live in this state. It's getting way too expensive to live in this city. Like I said, with fuel costs going up, with food, with electricity, with gas, your taxes going up. People can't afford it. People are struggling now. Imagine what's going to happen come July 1st. When all this stuff really hits. I told you, we are in the perfect storm. I don't say that lightly. We are in a perfect storm right now. And I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. But will we do what's necessary to change course come November? And that's a question that I'm really looking forward to finding out. Have people finally had enough? And I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, well, I say, well, okay, you're a Democrat and you're going to vote Democrat. Why? Because you don't like Republicans? This is crazy. Why will you sit there and do the same thing all over again? What do you have to lose by voting for the other side? At this point, you don't have anything. What do you have to lose? Not much. It can't get any worse for you right now. Well, it could get worse. I don't want to give that challenge to Hartford or to Washington. So, listen, it's just absolute craziness, and again, these are the things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And I'm hoping people are waking up. I'm hoping they're waking up. So, we'll see what happens. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm seeing you guys go back and with the referendum. Listen, the referendum is that important. Please, you guys should be talking about that. That is something you should be talking about. It should be on everybody's mind for the next 9 days to do everything possible to get that done. So, lastly tonight, me and Joseph went and listen, I had to see this movie. So I went out and saw 2,000 Mules today. Me and Joseph decided to go over there, and we went out to North Haven to the movie theater when we saw it. It was interesting to say the least. So let me just put where my position is on the whole thing. So if anyone doesn't know what 2,000 Mules is, it is supposed to be a documentary that lays out how the election was stolen from Trump in 2020. Now, did that happen? Did it prove that? No, not really. Is it interesting? And the things that they looked at, does it deserve further investigation? Absolutely. It definitely is interesting. Now, my stance on the whole thing is, one, he had an opportunity to go to court. Trump, I'm saying Trump. He had his opportunity in his days in court. I think Rudy Giuliani did a horrible job at making the case for the president, and the Supreme Court rejected it. To me, okay, that's end of story. Unless you have proof, I'm not buying that it was totally stolen. Now, do I think there are some serious questions about how the election went? Absolutely. And if you watch the movie, which I do, I suggest everyone watch it. There are some interesting facts, and they go by geo-tracking. And when you have individuals going to 50 different polling or 50 different ballot boxes over 6 counties in one night and does it multiple times, yeah, I mean, you got to ask the question. The problem I have with it is that they didn't go into more detail than that. And therefore, I have a hard time believing, all the facts behind it. One, they didn't say, they kept referring to these nonprofits, but they didn't disclose any of them who they were. So if you're going to do something like this, a movie like this, you have to at least tell us who these nonprofits were. You have to tell us, how they got these ballots, who pays for them, who is part of these organizations. And that just wasn't done. So to me, it was, I left there like wanting more info. It's like, you can't give me that. You can't show me these maps and show me how all the geo-tracking was done and then just leave it there. It was like a cliffhanger that just never gave you the final decision, I guess, final whatever to finish it off. So it was really disappointing at the end, but does some of those things deserve to be further investigated? I definitely think so, especially when you see some of the actual video of the ballot boxes that were under surveillance. Listen, it's hard not to be angry about what happened, but I wish they had gone into more depth in it. So therefore, and again, was it interesting? Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there wasn't any proof there that it was stolen. Because one, you don't know which ballots they're putting into those boxes or where they came from, and you didn't tell us where they came from. So again, it was kind of disappointing to me. I thought it was going to be better than what it was. Again, entertaining, I guess, and makes you think a little bit. But to me, I'm all about facts. I'm all about facts and proving things. And if you don't prove it, then how can you go and attack someone for it? Listen, it shows a lot of stolen vote. Again, it shows different. I'm trying to put it properly. It showed the intention, maybe, of stolen votes. No one knows what those votes were. No one knows. Again, they didn't put it out there. They said there was over almost 1 million stolen votes or illegal votes, but there's no proof that they were illegal. No one could prove where they came from. So again, if you're going to tell me that they came illegally from nonprofit organizations that are harvesting votes, okay, well, who are these nonprofits? And why didn't you put them out there? I would think it'd be common sense that if you want people to believe what's going on, what you're saying is going on, you got to name names. And they didn't. They didn't. Now, to name individuals would be hard because they only have geo-tracking info that they purchased, that they spent $2 million on. They don't know who these people actually are. Only the authorities could, and the government could figure that out because they have IDs. Obviously, it's a digital ID. They could trace it to the phone. They could see who it was. The public's not going to be able to get that information. They're just getting the geo-tracking information. So, again, without facts and without proof, you can't claim it's illegal. Now, do I think that there are some serious issues with the election? Absolutely. Anyone who thinks that 81 million people voted for Joe Biden, 10 million more than that voted for Barack Obama, you're on crack. I can't believe anybody that would believe that. You have a guy who could fill stadiums in less than 24 hours against a guy who can't fill a friggin' auditorium at a school. And you're going to tell me he got 81 million votes? No, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. But at the end of the day, it was on the President Trump at the time, to prove it. To prove that it was illegal. And he didn't. And he just didn't. And like I said, I think Rudy Giuliani did a horrible job. Horrible job at making the case for the president. And I think that's why the Supreme Court said, no, we're not even going to hear it. And so it is what it is. And like I said, I keep saying it. At the end of the day, Joe Biden will be the best thing to happen and the worst thing to happen to this country. He will be the worst thing because we have to deal with Joe Biden and his horrible policies for 4 years. Hopefully for only a couple more months. Because if people go out and vote Republican come November, we could stop a lot of what's going on right now. We could definitely slow it down if Republicans take over the House and the Senate. But at the end, he will be the best thing to ever happen for this country because Trump will win again. Trump will run, and he will run, and he will win. He will win, and he is going to prove once and for all that you should never elect another politician ever again, and that you need a business person running this country. That only a business person who looks at this country as a business, because that's what it is. We are a business. This town is a business. We are in competition. We are in competition with every other town and city around us. This state is in competition with every single state in this country. And this country is in competition with every country in this world. That is a fact. And it needs to be run that way, with that mindset. And that's what Donald Trump did, which is why America First policy was created. And that's why you saw this country have great success, because he cared about here first. Love him or hate him, like I said, I hate it. If I had my way, I would have taken his freaking iPhone away and I would have never let him tweet, ever. But at the end of the day, he got things done. So, it's absolute craziness. But again, if you don't make the case and you don't show facts, then I'm sorry. And this, like I said, this documentary, while entertaining and definitely makes your antennas go up, it was lackluster because it didn't have any teeth behind it. It was just hearsay in their thoughts. And to me, I don't care about your thoughts. And I don't care about hearsay. I care about facts. And if you're not bringing me facts, and you just got, $20 off of me and 2 hours of my time. So, but it is what it is. I don't think any counselors went down. Like I said, I don't think they went up as much as some of them didn't go up as much as the average. So I don't think anybody's actually went down. I know somebody said something like that, but I don't think that's an accurate statement. I don't think anybody's went down. So they may have not gone up at a percentage rate that everybody else's did, but I don't think anyone's actually went down. Their taxes went down, but I know a couple's did. So, But we'll see what happens. Like I said, some of the stuff was interesting and should be investigated. Will it be? I highly doubt it. I think people just want to put this whole thing behind us on the 2020 election. In some ways, I would semi-agree with that, unless, like I said, someone all of a sudden appears with some hard facts. I think people should just let it go and move on and work towards 2022, 2024. That's my opinion on the matter for what it is. Like I said, I'm more interested in the 22 election that's coming up, obviously, because I think there's a lot at stake, not only for the town, but for the district, but for the country as well. So that's what I will focus my time on. But with that said, I was hoping to have Colleen on tonight, but unfortunately she could not make it with us. But hopefully we'll get Colleen Sear on the show soon, because I do want to congratulate her on the success with the HUD investigation. Again, holding people accountable, holding those in the positions of power accountable is extremely important. And we will continue to do so here on this show. Like I said, with the tax assessment office, tax assessor, she still has some things to answer for as far as these changes. We'll have more on that next week. The Board of Ed, like I said, I promised them 2 weeks. Their 2 weeks is going to be up come this week. So we'll talk about the Board of Ed next week and what came out of it. Because I think that's going to, when the people hear about what happened at the Board of Ed, I think you're going to lose your freaking minds. I know I lost my mind. When I heard about what happened and it was confirmed, I lost it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And people are going to need to be prosecuted for this. No two ways about it. I don't care what the Board of Ed says. People need to be held accountable for what they do. And these, I believe, need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But we'll get into that next week. That's a little teaser for you all for next week. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining us here tonight. I know it was a beautiful day out there. I know you guys all should have better things to do. And Don, if you're out there still fishing, best of luck out there. Hope you get some tight lines and get a nice big giant striper for us. Until then, guys, thank you for joining us. As always, I love each and every one of you. And of course, always, since like I said, I got my disclaimer up there, Vollano2022.com. Make sure you go up there and sign the forms, donate to the campaign. We need to get all this stuff wrapped up ASAP, and get out there and sign that damn referendum as quickly as you can. If you need to, make sure you go and contact Sean, Elaine, contact anybody. You can contact me here. I'll point you in the right direction. But let's get that done. We got 9 days. We'll talk about it again next Sunday, even though it's Memorial Day weekend. So make sure you do it this week. Until then, guys, I love each and every one of you. God bless you. And of course, always, God bless this great country of ours. Love you guys. See you guys next week, and good night.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder, magic static. Call me a sleeping and the shadows could be making history.